It is said that the movements of butterflies reminds of the elegance, the dynamism, and the beauty of dancers. This analogy between dancing, my fascination, and nature became the starting point of my project for the landscape of the Campi Plateau, which is called the Dance of Butterflies. The location for this project is a special place that can be found near the cities of Genk and Maasmechelen, the national park of Hoogkampen. Here, it can be found one of the most beautiful and characteristic landscapes in the province of Limburg, the Mechelse Heide, which is the habitat of many butterflies. But as it can be seen, this headland is just a small reality inside a monotonous landscape. In the past, most of the lands of the actual national park were headlands where butterflies used to live. Nevertheless, they were destroyed, and today it only remains the name of what they used to be in the past. Of course, this radical transformation not only developed a monotonous landscape, but also created important water issues and triggered serious problems not only for the soil, but also for the biodiversity that lives in those ecosystems. One of the most threatened species due to these problematics are the butterflies. These beautiful insects are considered indicators of the quality of the habitat due to its important role in the ecosystem, and the huge diminution of the number of many species that have been happening in the last decades highlight the problem that is happening in the region of the Camping Plateau. Even many of them are considered extinct in the past year. With this project, it will be develop a new whole landscape to reinforce their actual butterflies' habitats, but it will also develop a new process to reintroduce and recover for the biodiversity the species that do not live in this area anymore. Starting from the big scale and ending in the small one, the landscape of butterflies will create a whole series of solutions to transform and improve the actual situation. Creation of different habitats, new water sources, but also the introduction of a diverse biodiversity, helping also with the water infiltration problem in the soil. To come up with this, it will be needed to develop a process of 3 phases, starting by cutting down the pine forest, then adding the new wetlands and bike roads while the new plants are growing, and finally when the new ecosystem is established, adding the pavilion for the reintroduction of the extinct butterflies. By the repeat of this process, the different unities will create a whole ecological network, where not only butterflies will find a comfortable place for living, but also other species. Humans will also be able to enjoy this new landscape by the addition of new bike roads, which will make possible a sustainable tourism through the landscape. To come up with this, it will be needed to develop a process of 3 phases, starting by cutting down the pine forest, then adding the new wetlands and bike roads while the new plants are growing, and finally when the new ecosystem is established, adding the pavilion for the reintroduction of the extinct butterflies. All of this together will create the new master plan for the national park, where the blue-green infrastructure takes part into the ecological network. Here, it is possible also to see the connections between the current bike roads with the new ones, which will allow to cross the new landscape with the bikes. But looking into the middle scale, for the creation of the butterfly's habitat, it is needed to have into account the different needs that these insects have during the cycle of their life, and also to take into account which kind of characteristics should provide the habitat depending on the species that we study. Headlands, marshes, meadows, every butterfly will need a different one, and to supply their needs, habitat should be provided also of different plants. Host plants will be the place to lay the eggs, to feed the caterpillars, and to let the chrysalis stay, and the nectar plants will be used to feed the different butterflies. All these plants for the habitats added to the different deciduous native trees introduced as oaks, rowans or birch, not only will help to get infiltration the water into the soil, but it will make the landscape change through the different seasons, adding a dynamism that was lost in the previous perennial trees. Finally, for the small scale, it will be created several pavilions through the landscape as reintroduction areas for butterflies. These permanent pavilions will be built by reusing the pine wood that will be recollected through the first phase, creating a sustainable structure where butterflies can live. With this wood and the addition of metallic nets to close it, it will be created a microsystem inside a shelter where the butterflies will be safe from the different predators, as it will take at least several generations before they can be reintroduced into the landscape with the other species. But these pavilions also will be developed for the people to enjoy them. Without disturbing the habitat of the butterflies, people will be able to enter and enjoy the exhibitions placed inside, with information about the importance of butterflies in the ecosystem, and also go upstairs to the viewing hour area to look for the reintroduced species. So to sum up, the National Park of Butterflies will consist in getting better water infiltration in the soil by cutting down most part of the pine forest that actually consumes most of the water in the region. This will also change the monotonous landscape that it can be found there. By adding different new plants and trees, it will be added a diverse biodiversity, where butterflies will live and also new bike routes will be created, which will make it possible to people discover the butterfly's habitat in a sustainable way. And to end up, the reintroduction areas will increase the butterflies species in the landscape. With all of this new butterfly landscape at the National Park will mean a new hope for the future of the biodiversity of the province of Limburg, a joint between nature and human beings, where it will be possible to enjoy again the magnificence of the dance of butterflies.